in. We have such a short time with you today, but we are super excited to continue our conversations around online learning and professional development. So we're thrilled you're here. My name is Debbie Bergeron. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Engagement Innovation here at NHSA. Many of you know me as Dr. B from when I was at the Office of Head Start, and I'm super thrilled to be here with you today with my wonderful friends, Annabelle, Rachel, and Haley, and they're going to step up in just a minute. But because we are so short on time, I'm going to just dive right in. We are being recorded, and we will share the recording in a follow-up email. So you will get a follow-up email with all the information. There isn't a certificate of completion for this. We like to kind of preempt those questions. This is just a short webinar, but we are going to give you some really good nuggets to take back to your programs with you. And there is follow-up that you can do with us if that's helpful. So if you have been included in online or on-demand trainings as part of onboarding, in other words, you've included those as part of your onboarding. Can I see a show of hands? And is there any way for me not to be pinned, Courtney, so I can see everybody? Thank you. Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. So we like to see that, folks have done some online training. If we had asked that question 5 years ago, our answer would look very different. I think COVID changed a lot of things. So to get started, what I want you to do is think about one of those experiences, and I'm going to share in the chat a link to a Padlet activity. If you've not used Padlet before, it's super easy. All you're going to do is click on the link that Courtney just shared with you in the chat. And then Courtney's going to share the Padlet page up here so we can all see it. And what I want you to do is think about a really effective training experience that you have had, like your favorite. You do it again, you left feeling really good about it. And then tell us why it was awesome. And what you do in Padlet, if you've not used it, you just click on this little plus sign in the bottom. You can write your answer and it'll stick it up there like a little sticky note. This is one of those great online tools that you can take back with you if you've not seen it before. I see lots of answers coming in. Foster care training. Beautiful, beautiful. What was great about that training? Tell me why. Why was it great? A funny, outgoing presenter. Interactive, lots of involvement, conscious discipline, handling upset. What happened at your conscious discipline training? I've been in some of those. I'd love to hear. Engaging and relevant. Time to discuss. So you had some time and that made it meaningful. Regio. Oh, wow. Regio is amazing to see. So I can imagine that felt really, really interactive and significant. Trauma-informed care. It was interactive. You had resources to take home. So you felt like you had some kind of practical thing that you could incorporate later, which is really important. Positive behavior support training. I'm seeing a lot of engaging and relevant. Real life examples, things that mean something to you. The trainer is also another thing I'm pulling out of this. Excellent. So we're seeing a lot of different trainings that folks have found engaging and exciting. And what we're seeing kind of teasing out of this are things like the instructor, relevance of the information, engagement, something practical that you can take back with you. Excellent. We can keep adding to this Padlet, but I'm going to have Courtney go back to our groups so I can see everybody. So I think that, what you all are saying here doesn't surprise me. We work at the Academy here to build online learning for you. And a big reason why I wanted to come to NHSA to do this work was when I was with Office of Head Start and visiting programs. There is just something about supporting staff that has always been my first love. So being able to come here and try to build things that really support staff is important to me. Part of doing that was making sure that what the work that we were doing was aligning with adult learning theory. I mean, adults don't learn the same way children do. And when we're doing professional development, it's important that we keep in mind the people we're trying to reach. So we did a lot of research here. Rachel was a big part of that, and looking at constructivism and what does that mean in the context of adult learning. And what it basically does is it really connects the meaning and the knowledge. Adults really will only engage with things that they believe they need to know. That is how we operate out of need. And when we're in need mode, we can do almost anything. Learners are exposed to environments and frameworks that allow them to derive meaning as opposed to just receiving information passively. That kind of learning, which is what we do a lot of times to adults. Think about some of that pre-service PD that you've done where you've sat in a room and maybe you've even led some of this. Um, I'm guilty of it, where you've sat in a room and you've just kind of dumped information on people because it's so important. It's compliant. They have to know it. So you dump it on them and you just hope it sticks. Not the best alignment for adult learning. Onboarding is especially challenging because we have to do it quickly. But it takes time to practice and get used to being in a position. And for us, onboarding isn't just about August and pre-service, it's all year long. We have new staff all the time in this space. And we've got to remember that a new person is still a new person, and they've got to have time and depth in order to really get to a place of success with what they're doing. And that's why you see high turnover with new staff, because if people get into a situation and they're not successful, they tend to leave, especially in this work, because it can be very stressful. And of course, learning happens best if it's over time with lots of opportunities to make mistakes and learn and reflect. What's interesting about that is one of the Padlet comments was we had time to talk to each other. I got materials to take back so that I could try this back in my space. Those are all things that we want to see as adults. So the big question today is, how do you apply this kind of professional development in an environment like Head Start that is very compliance driven, that we don't have a lot of time, that new employees come in the middle, and we're wondering how we're going to get them trained in order so that they're in a classroom because we have a FA2 coming up in 3 weeks and we've got to get this going, or we have a class observation coming up and we have to get moving. So we're under a lot of stress, and there are lots of reasons why we could justify having PD that's fast and furious just to check a box. I can totally understand it. But what we really, really want to try to do for you here at NHSA is to give you opportunities to have meaningful professional development that certainly meets compliance, but also gives people the skills they need to be really effective in whatever job they're doing. When people feel successful, they stay. And that's really important to us, is to keeping a staff that's committed and loyal. So that kind of lays the groundwork for what we want to talk about today. And now I'm going to turn it over to the real expert in the room, and that's Rachel Hutchison. And she's going to go through a few things with you and then bring Annabelle and Haley into the conversation too.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Rachel Hutchison. I am the Senior Manager of Online Instructional Design here at NHSA. I have worked in education in some capacity most of my life, whether it was as a volunteer teacher, working with kids in theater programs, or whether it was working in higher ed, in administration, working on things like, I don't know, onboarding everyone at the beginning of every year and going, man, if I can just everybody to say, that wasn't that bad, we were happy. So now to be here at NHSA saying, we can do better than that. And we have to do better than that because our people deserve better than that. But while I've done a lot of research and a lot of learning about adult learning theory and about what makes an online class really effective, and there are a lot of great tools and practices that you can follow, the real expert in the room is coming to us from a program, because she's put it in practice. And I thought it would be best for you to hear direct from the source today on how this can work in a Head Start program really, really well to do onboarding and not overboard everybody. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Haley Carr. She is coming to us from the Family Resource Agency of North Georgia, and she is the Human Resources Coordinator there. So welcome, Haley, and thanks so much for joining us and sharing today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a topic I'm super passionate about because I too love adults. I love children, but I found out quickly that my passion was more geared toward empowering those who work with children and families. Yeah, so we take a huge approach to onboarding and orientation. It's a 2-week process at our agency, which is scary, sounds scary, but we have a big mix of different things. We have lots of hands-on training. We also do have some of the online versions of the trainings as well. And we kind of let staff gear their own training. If they would rather do it virtually, then virtually is what we kind of have it, set up for them. The biggest thing that we have done in our agency that I think has really supported our staff the most is really put an emphasis on the individual learner, like almost the whole teacher concept, like we say, the whole child concept. And so we really bring in our special services coordinator who is over mental health. And the very first person that they see outside of my introduction when they come on board is our mental health consultant. And she talks about the things that they can, they have access to, the types of trainings that they can do, the resources that they have, so that they are equipped to know how they learn. Because if we're struggling with something at home, if we're overwhelmed by the training and stuff we're getting, at orientation and onboarding, then we're not going to retain that information. So it's really trying to take a step back and see, what type of learner am I? Where am I emotionally on a scale to absorb this information and apply it? And that's one of the things that we really, I think, have excelled at, is pushing that information out and allowing them to really take a hold of their own professional development. And we'll work on the requirements as we go. And then they just have access to all the tools and resources. We're an open book. They get crisis cards, learning crisis cards. They, of course, have access to the NHSA Academy to do trainings. And it's just, we kind of gear it toward each person individually. We individualize professional development.
That's so exciting. Imagine that if you take care of someone's social emotional learning when they're older, same way as we do when they're little, they're much more able to learn all the things you need them to learn. So that's such a smart approach, Haley. And I am sure there are people in here going, oh, I bet I could do that. There's definitely ways that that can be incorporated just to let people know that they are cared about and cared for in their program. Can you speak, Haley? I think you guys have kind of a neat peer onboarding program.
We do. So the first week of orientation, the first day, of course, is all the fun stuff, the legality, your payroll stuff. And then the second through the 5th day is that onboarding training. They're going through things like our developmental skills. They're doing child abuse, first aid, CPR, fire safety, lots of safety things. The entire second week, they're going peer-to-peer training. That week, they're partnered with a peer. So if you're an early Head Start teacher, you're paired with an early Head Start teacher for the whole week, and you're going into their classroom and observing and getting that hands-on training that you need, and in real time, so you can see the things that training can't prepare you for. Lunch is going to be late. There's an angry parent. There's a child that's thrown a chair across. There's a fire drill. All those things that we can't read them out of a book. And I think that really is another huge piece of the puzzle, is letting them see it in real time. And then they can take that and apply it to their classrooms. And they still have contact with that peer trainer throughout, their entire employment. They build those relationships. So they build their own community.
You're pretty intentional about that, especially through the first 90 days, though, right? Getting those two together.
Yes, and we do follow up with them. And one of the biggest things is sometimes, I know for me in HR, we get them through, we push them through, but we're really trying to place an emphasis on, okay, we really supported you really well during the first 2 weeks. Now we're on 90 days.
Like we might have
where
a
has
lag
that
on Haley's end?
Where has that lagged out?
I think Rachel's having audio. We
It's
were
me.
fine.
The problem is me. I'm
Yeah,
so sorry.
we can hear.
I was staying still just to make sure.
Well, I just got your internet connection is unstable. I think you just like blew my internet's
Oh
mind,
no,
Haley, with how cool this is.
the algorithm.
So, just to make sure that I don't interrupt the flow of what you're talking about, this is a really great opportunity to connect your current staff with your new staff and build those relationships that really help people feel connected to their place of employment, as well as the support structure that they need in order to be successful in what can be a really challenging job that you cannot learn from a book.
Right,
You just can't. You can learn the theory, but not the practice. And it's
right.
so much easier to learn practice with someone who can teach you. So it's
Yeah.
really a fantastic model. But I did want to also flag that you don't ask your peer mentors to do this for free.
No, we actually give them we actually, it's volunteer. We don't force anybody because we don't want to force someone to do something they don't want to do. And it's not really quality at that point. But we offer stipends for staff who do this. They receive, an amount of money. Of course, there's a form to log everything that they do. And then they turn those in and they're paid based on how many staff that they train per quarter. So we pay out quarterly. And then it's just another way for us to support them and appreciate them for continuing to invest and grow our own people.
And what kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, losing my internet has also lost my brain.
You're fine.
Participation do you see with that? Like, do a lot of people sign up to do this?
We do, and we do cut off the limit. Our child development manager, she handles specifically those going into the classroom, but we also peer train our family service specialists, those that work with the families. We peer train food service workers, center managers. We peer train everyone where there's one or two positions. So I didn't get peer training very much because there's no one that's like me at my site, but anyone else does. We do really focus on getting those
There's
connections
always a few
made.
positions, Haley, where you just gotta, you're a pioneer.
You just jump in. It reminds me of the merry-go-round as a kid. You're just trying to find the right time to jump on. So
Yeah. That's always true. There are a couple questions in the chat that I wanted to flag. First was if you'd be willing to share the training form that you use as a template.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Fantastic. So we'll get that from Haley and then we'll add that to the follow-up email that y'all will be getting after this session. Another good question, what are the requirements to be one of your trainers or mentors?
So we actually have some sort of in-house staff there. We call them quality mentors. They go into the classroom and they work on several packets. They're looking for things like interactions with kids. They're looking at class. We use like tippy toes as for our infant and toddler things. So they have to have good class scores. They have to have good annual evaluations. They have to have like recommendations from their supervisors. We really do place intentional, effort in finding these staff and making sure that they are qualified. So as long as they're showing interest and they're meeting all those, good scores and stuff based on what we consider to be exemplary, then they're qualified. And we can switch it up and change people. Sometimes we have people want to do it and then they skip a year. So it just kind of depends. That we do have lots of people that want to do it. So that's always good.
That's a pretty great program. So then another question that came in, so if you're short on staff, do you keep new hires out of the classroom for the first week? Support the
We
second week? Do they count towards a ratio?
They don't.
All
So
those
when they go into
logistics.
when they go into peer to peer, they do not count as ratio. We say that they're there. Of course, if there is a fire, we all hands on deck. But they're there to better themselves in the environment. We do get some, we know what it's like to be short staffed, and we sometimes have to go to bat and say, look, we know that they're already hired, especially that supervisor who's like, I've got 5 vacancies, I need to fill these classrooms.
Yeah.
We really want to extend quality services to our children and families. So just throwing someone in there halfway through the process is not really what we want to do. So we sacrifice those few days to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to prepare them.
So you are intentionally making that choice to be like, yep, it's going to hurt a little longer, but
And
we're
it's
going to let it hurt
even,
a little
and
longer.
what we do get, we don't pair them with anyone at their center that they're going to work at, so that they don't start developing that. They develop relationships with other centers in our agency, and it's less likely that they'll be used in ratio. It's kind of like just another layer of protection, like they're not even at your center yet, so you're not using them in ratio. It's very, very systemic, trying to make them really to get the most out of the training.
Couple more questions. Do you want to share the amount of the stipend that you pay?
Sure. Yeah. So we pay $100 per staff that they train. We had thought about increasing that a little bit, and then I did some studies with some local Head Starts, kind of in our area, and they didn't do any of it. So for this year, we were good to just leave it at the $100 per person that they train. But of course, we're interested in always looking and seeing if the need is there. And it would just really depend on, how much they're doing and stuff like that. We want to make it a good program. So I'm sure, COLA will eventually raise it up, cost of living. So they're wanting more too.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worth every penny you can give
It
it. Sounds
is.
like it's a really high quality way to build the cohesion on your team and get your new people into the fold. There was a question about kind of clarifying quality mentors. I don't know if that's a title or just making sure that you have high quality. Do you require that your teachers have degrees? A couple of follow-up questions in there.
Yeah, so we of course meet all the standards that we have. The peer trainers, of course, have to have what's required. If they're an early Head Start teacher, they have to have the minimum there. But we do require extra training for the peer trainers as well, and stuff like that. They do get extra training. We do like to make sure that if they're in the classroom, they are meeting those standards by our quality mentors. What our quality mentors are, our quality mentors have to have an associate's degree in early childhood. So they've typically, they've been in the classroom, they know the ins and outs. So we have like a safety packet where they're looking for like safety things. We're looking for those interactions, meal times. We're looking at their classroom environment, all these things that we look at. If someone were to come into if Office of Head Start were to come to our classroom and say, these are the things we're looking at, it's sort of mirrored in that way to what our quality mentors do. It's kind of like our ongoing monitoring system internally that we use. And we tell people the quality mentors are your friends. They're not here to tell you these are all the things you're doing wrong. It's really kind of like practice-based coaching in a sense, to say, what could you do to make this better? And they're learning their own teaching practices and how they could improve. We have even let them watch videos of themselves. Okay, what can you do to make this better? Things like that. So it's really full circle.
Yeah, sounds like it's a really comprehensive. And then once you've established that, then they're able to do your peer mentoring. So it all kind of stacks on and builds on each other. So it's a great program. I really appreciate you coming, Haley, and kind of sharing the just a little bit of a window to how your program creates an onboarding experience that is less overwhelming, especially building it out over time, where they now have people they can reach out to with questions, and that feels like a safe thing they can do. They have all those other supports. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing. We have a couple more tools and tips that we want to share with you. So I'm going to hand it back to Dr. B to help us get to the end here.
I want to introduce Annabelle, but I want to do that with a great segue Haley set us up for. And that is that I want everyone in this who's listening to know that everything Haley is doing is research-based. All of the research about staff retention, people think that it is just if we pay people more, they'll stay. And that is not a recipe for success. Do folks need to make more money? We definitely need to be working on that. But the real reason that educators stay, whether it's in early childhood or K-12, has to do with professional development and support so that they feel successful, which is exactly why we created the resources we did here at NHSA. And Annabelle has really helped to lift these up. So I want to give her a chance to talk about this, because there might be some things here that will help you all get this kind of a comprehensive program off the ground.
Sure. So one of the big things that we have put into place in the last little over a year is Academy Plus, which is our subscription model. And what it allows programs to do is rely on us for those compliance-based trainings, all threaded in using adult learning theory, lots of engaging pieces and activities, scenarios, resources to take away. Our courses have these things that come with them, these little packets of information or tidbits that are directly relevant to all of their work that they're doing in the classroom, on the bus, when they're cooking for the children, whatever their job function is, they have a piece that they can take away. So not only are they reflected in these trainings, but you're relying on us to do those compliance-based trainings, know that the information they are getting is Head Start specific, it is quality. And then what you're able to do is have all of those pieces that are so important to the connection with your program, because that's something we can't ever do. You all are the best at that. You know that that is where the bread and butter comes from, is those connections. And so if we can take a little bit of that weight off your shoulders for those compliance-based trainings that feel stressful to put together, and you're not quite sure if the information is up to date, and oh, well, what if this thing changed? You can rely on us for those things, and then you can go spread that joy and make those connections with your people. Because without those connections, the compliance-based trainings are fine, but they stop at that. And if you can't do something as in-person and tangible as this program that Haley's team has put together, the fun thing about Academy Plus is with this subscription, you have access to this learning management system, which is an LMS. It's all digital to build anything you want. So if there's a piece where you think, oh, that would be so great, we just don't have people in person to do this, maybe we could pivot and do something digital. The fun thing about this subscription is you can go have fun, create whatever you want, and allow those connections to at least be started and fostered with something digital if you don't have the time and space for something in person right now. The other piece to this that I think we've been talking a lot about and that seems so important is time. We always need more time with things. People need time to absorb the content. Maybe they're just feeling overwhelmed. It's not about the content, it's about something else. And the fun thing about this subscription is your program gets it for a year. So your people have access to this content at any point in time. If they are in the middle of a scenario with a kiddo and they leave and go, gosh, I wish I had done something different, but I didn't know what to do, they can come revisit a course that they loved and go, oh, that's the phrase I should have used. Well, I'll put that in my back pocket and I'll take it in next time. And so it's allowing them to come revisit these spaces that they had positive experiences with, but maybe didn't have the in-person experience yet. And then take that piece, go review it in the digital side, and bring it back to their classroom, to their job function, to their everyday experiences. So it's really about creating those connections and allowing time and space to be held so that people have the ability to access those at any point in time. So something fun. And you're going to get in the chat, you're going to get the link to my calendar if you want to chat more about Academy Plus specifically, or about anything that your program is needing or wanting to talk about or experience. And this won't be the last time you see my calendar. So if you don't grab it from there, no big deal. You're going to get it in a follow-up. But come explore our resources and see if something fits for your program. We'd love to see what you all are looking to do over this next year.
Thanks, Annabelle. I have to reiterate that everything that we do here at NHSA is for you. So the more often we hear from you, better tools and resources we can build for you. So thanks so much for being here today. Thanks for all your awesome participation and questions. We really appreciate that. Thanks so much again to Haley for joining us today and sharing about the great best practices in her program. I'm sure we all are, the wheels are turning. I can feel them from here, even through my unstable internet. So just a quick reminder, when this is done, you can go back and access it again. We'll be sending you an email with the recording to this session. We do have one more in this series that will be about in-service that is for everyone, because sometimes we forget about some of our staff needing a really high quality professional development, and we focus on maybe just our instructional staff. We want everyone to feel like they are an included member of the team and that we have something valuable and rich for them to learn at all times. So that'll be the topic of our next session. Hope to see you there. And I think, Dr. B, do you have anything you want to send us out with?
I just always like to say, Head Start is access to the American dream. Go make dreams happen. See you next time, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone.